Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Moxxie Coaching podcast. My name is Michele, and I'll be your host as we explore what coaching is and how it can help you create your best life. If you're anything like me, it's important to you to give back in some way. Maybe it's volunteering in the soup kitchen. Maybe it's donating $1 million to environmental research. It doesn't really matter. I started coaching and podcasting because I'm just one person who can only do so much alone. And I realized that through coaching and through podcasting, I could help and support those of you who want to do good works and exponentially increase the amount of good that I'm able to do. So if this sounds like you, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Be well. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Moxxie Coaching podcast episode. We are continuing our exploration of the major cards, and today we're going to be talking about death, temperance, and the devil cards. So now we're getting into some of the juicy stuff. Some of the stuff that if someone that you're reading for doesn't know the tarot very well, cards that are going to make them freak out, basically, and for which there is no need to freak out, by the way. So let's get started and figure out why. People fear the death card the same way they fear death. And their lack of understanding about the meaning of the death card in tarot will often just kind of freak people out if it comes up. So I want to make sure that both you and anyone that you read for is not concerned when they see this card, because actually, believe it or not, the death card can be a really positive card. And you might not know that because the Rider-Waite deck can be pretty heavy-handed and dramatic, but that's also part of what makes it easy to read, or easier to read. So some things to look at in this card. The death itself is on a white horse, so think about that. Normally the bad guys are on black horses. He's on a white horse. Maybe that means death isn't so bad. He's carrying a flag, and he is a skeleton. That's who death is. Now, he's not in your traditional cloak, with the hood and the whole, what do you call that? A sickle, all of those things. But, still, it's a skeleton in a suit of armor on a horse, and he is looking down at someone who presumably has just died. And there are people below that or below him that look like they're imploring him to maybe spare this person or something along those lines. And in the background of this card, there is a very bright sunrise. So you have this sense of doom and gloom and death and scary things and sad things. But then if you look beyond into the horizon, you'll see that there is a beautiful sun. And that's a reminder to us. Again, very similar to the Wheel of Fortune, in that things are a cycle. Life is a cycle. We're born, we die. Depending on your belief system, we're born, we die, we're born, we die. Hopefully we learn some things in the meantime. And so keeping in mind that there is that sunshine back in the corner, that is telling us that, yes, this is life. Death is a part of life. And it's also the opportunity for something to start anew. A new day is breaking over the horizon with that sunshine coming up. And this card wants you to remember that. It wants you to remember that while you may be suffering some sort of figurative death, not literal, this card is not about literal death, or at least like one in a bazillion. it's really about transformation and change and growth. So maybe if you can, look at it from the perspective of reincarnation, where we are here, we do what we do, and then we pass on. We synthesize what we learned, and then we come back again, right? So that is really more about what the death card is about than about the body being clinically dead, okay? It's not a warning. It's not a sign of something to come. Not at all. It really is truly just about something is dying, so something new and something better can be reborn. So you might want to consider asking yourself these questions if the death card comes up. Is there something that you are working on or involved in or pondering that you might need to consider a different approach, a different outlook? Maybe you need to figuratively let death come in and sweep away all of the old stuff that you've got in your head. Let it come through, let it sweep away all of the preconceived notions, concerns, whether they're real or not, all of that stuff. Is there something that you need to consider changing so that you can get past the death card and you can move yourself into that new beginning that is occurring for you? You could also ask yourself, is there something in your life that you're ready or not ready to let go of? And letting go of that thing is going to make room for something new, something transformative, something wonderful. What is it that you could let go to make space for something new to move in? And ask yourself, what it is that this death is making room for. Maybe it's making room for a new personal spiritual goal. Maybe it's making room for considering starting a completely new career. It doesn't really matter. It's just letting you know that you might want to get ready to think about what changes could be occurring, what changes will occur, and how you can use those changes in a way that, instead of creating an end to something, is really about creating a pathway to rebirth and renewal and moving into a different phase of your life. So if this card comes up for you or your friends, welcome it and say, oh, yes, this means that my life is moving forward and I'm going to have yet another opportunity to do something new, to try something new, to make a shift that is going to be good for me. So when this card comes up, rather than seeing the archetype of the traditional death figure, consider a phoenix rising from the ashes. Consider a death so that a rebirth can occur. Just like when there's a forest fire and everything is burnt, everything is charred, and then slowly you start to see those little green shoots coming up. And those little green shoots are the beginning of another field or another forest or another whatever that can be lovelier and more fruitful than the last one. Let's move on to the Temperance card. The card itself shows an image of an angel, and a lot of people think of this as Archangel Michael. Again, Christian references in the Rider-Smith-Waite deck. And this card is all about patience and self-discipline and cooperation and adaptation. And, when you think of the word temperate, as in a temperate climate, that means that it's like good. It's not hot, it's not cold, it's not chilly, it's not warm, it's temperate. It's right in the middle. It's right there in the sweet spot. And the concept of the temperance card is really to set our lives up in a way that we're living in this sweet spot. If you look at the card, you'll notice that the angel has 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on the land. And that is a good reminder to you of temperance, right? It's this, I got a little bit of this here and I got a little bit of that there, and it's all balanced out very nicely. And of course, we would all like to be able to live our lives. Yeah, that might be an overgeneralization. A lot of us would like to live our lives in this place of temperance. But life is what it is, and we probably have phases in our lives where temperance is a key factor. But for most of us, it's not. Most of us, we have peaks and valleys and struggles and joys and all of those things. But the temperance card is really there to help us, there to remind us that temperance is an option, that we can be better balanced, we can be more focused, more patient, those types of things. Archetypes for this card: your preschool teacher, right? Your preschool teacher was probably one of the most patient, calm, I hope they were anyway, patient, calm, centered people in your life, right? They deal with craziness all day. You've got so and so running out of the bathroom with his pants down around his ankles, and then you have somebody, whipping sand at someone else in the sand table. And so the whole time that you are working with little kids, it's about maintaining the balance between chaos and productivity in the classroom. Your dog is a great example of a temperate being, because your dogs they just are, most of them, if they live in a happy, healthy environment. They just are. They don't have any grand aspirations, short of snacks and walks, probably. They don't have concerns about what the future is going to look like. They just are. They're here. They're balanced. They just are, right? Like the Tao of Pooh. Pooh just is. Dogs just are. Another example would be somebody who is really good at embracing their dharma. And I will not claim to be the best person at embracing my dharma, but I do recognize the value of it. I do recognize what a gift it can be to get into the position where I'm more of an observer and less of an active participant when things start to get uncomfortable, or when things start to feel unbalanced, or when things start to feel just a little bit off. So all about patience, all about adaptation, all about cooperation, working with other people. And you might want to ask yourself these questions. Is there someone with whom you need to have more patience? There's probably someone almost all of us need to be more patient with. Is there a situation in which you need to have more patience? Meaning not a person, but a specific situation. The COVID pandemic, right? We have to be patient. That's all we can do. All we can do is take care of ourselves, take care of our loved ones, make sure they're vaccinated, and let it go. Do you need to look at your management skills? Are you getting this temperance card? Is this card coming up because it's difficult for you to manage things, where some things get more attention than they deserve, other things don't get as much attention as they deserve? Do you need to approach the way you are interacting with people to come across as, or not to come across, but to be more calm and centered and temperate? And if you're able to do that, will that improve your relationship with this person? Where would you benefit from more cooperation? Would you benefit from more cooperation professionally? Would you benefit from more cooperation from your husband, your kids, your spouse, your partner, your roommate, whoever else is in your life on a regular basis? Maybe you need to strike a better balance with that person. Maybe it's something as simple as you are so sick and tired of doing all the darn housework that you this card is coming up. It's like, hey, let's create a better situation. Let's look at a more temperate, a better balanced way to get the house cleaned. Asking yourself if you need to, or it would benefit you to embody the energy of this card and embody the energy of any of the other cards, right? That's the first question you should be asking yourself is, you know, am I lacking the elements of temperance that would be beneficial for me? And if so, where are those elements lacking and what can I do about it? I think that's a simpler way to explain it. We all would love to have more temperance in our lives and more people in our lives who are able to maintain that temperate balance. So if you are one of those people, reach out and be there for for those of us who are not. Reach out and be an example for those of us who have a tendency sometimes to take things, those of us who maybe struggle to stay positive or maybe struggle to just maintain a happy and healthy balance in our lives, right? All of us could use more of that. And lastly, we're going to talk about the devil today. And again, this is one of those cards that will come up for people, and without an understanding of really what it's trying to share with us, people have a tendency to get whacked out. So let's learn a little bit more about this card and why it's actually a good card. Actually, all of the cards are good cards. You just need to look at them from the right perspective. Okay, so the devil card. The card itself is an image of the devil. He has horns, big pointy ears, wings, a naked torso, and kind of like Pan, the flautist from mythology, he has fur pants on. His feet are clawed, and at his feet are standing two figures, a male and a female. They're both nude, and they're both literally chained to his throne, except they're chained very loosely. You'll notice if you look at the card, it's almost like they could just slip the chain over their head and walk away from this guy, but they're not. And that's where the concept of the devil comes in, because it's really about self-imposed prisons, right? It's things that we impose on ourselves that make us prisoner to them, right? I am a prisoner to my morning coffee, most definitely. But if you are a prisoner, or if you know someone or love someone who is a prisoner of opioids, that's a really, really, really different situation, right? That is a self-imposed prison, regardless of how you ended up on the opioids. Probably let's just say, hopefully a well-meaning physician who wasn't paying attention. But ultimately, that physician's not the one in the position that you're in. That physician is not the one who has got to break that habit. The physician is not the one who needs to figure out how to get through the day without taking an OxyContin. Alcoholism, another one. bondage to the material world. Maybe on a less dark example. Maybe you are one of those people for whom making money is your primary goal. And I'm guessing that's probably not the case, because if you listen to this type of podcast, that's probably not you. But if it is, or if you know someone who is so tied into keeping up with the Joneses, someone who is just so concerned with what they have and whether or not what they have creates the perception that they want to create, those people are really stuck, right? I mean, think about your self-worth being tied into your monetary value. I mean, that's tragic. And that's a place where a lot of people live, where they're in this place where they just feel like they have to keep working because they've got to keep up, they've got to maintain their standard of living, and they are prisoner to the devil in this situation. Clearly the figurative devil. But they're prisoner, they're stuck, even though really they're not stuck, right? The same thing with addictive issues. And ultimately, this card is helping us to see the areas in our lives where we do, or we may tend to, or we may be headed toward addiction, obsessions, temptation, being a slave to your vices. Maybe the pandemic was too much and you started having a glass of wine every night before bed. And then that glass of wine turned into 2 glasses of wine. And now you really have a difficult time falling asleep without having your glass of wine. Fairly benign, right? But it's still something that is controlling you. It's still something that has control over how you are behaving, how you are managing your life, how you are acting, and how you're feeling. It's almost like you're a willing prisoner. Now, I recognize I have had family members with massive addiction issues, so I totally get the fact that, yeah, sure, just quit, right? You have control. You are addicted to something. Just slip the chain over your head and walk away from the freaking guy. Well, that's not always very easy. In fact, it's almost never easy. And so I get that. But that is really the essence of what this card is about, right? It's about looking at your situation and deciding, am I stuck in this situation? And if I am I okay with it? And if I'm not, what am I going to do to get myself out of this situation? So, questions that you might think about asking yourself. Have you given over control of some aspect of your life to someone else? Let's say you have decided to be a stay-at-home mother and your husband is working, and your husband controls all of the money, and suddenly you're not so happy. And now you are stuck in this position where someone else has control over your financial well-being and your ability to change your life because you gave them that control, right? You're like, I'm not working professionally anymore. I'm going to stay home for the next 5 years. And what's implied in those types of conversation usually is, you're my husband, you're my partner, you're my whomever. I trust you, I love you, and I know that you will do the right thing. Well, that's not always the case, right? People don't always do the right thing. And now, someone has found themselves in this situation where they voluntarily gave up something that they really, really wish they had back. Is there a habit that you need to take a look at? Is there something that you do that is it is destructive? And I'm talking anything from being a negative person, running around with nothing but nasty negative things to say because you're so miserable that that's all that's there for you. The obvious things: alcohol, drugs, food, sex, anything that we can use to create a self-imposed prison, a self-imposed restriction of sorts. Archetypes, not a real stretch here. The devil. Hedonists, people who are just so into physical pleasure, whether it's eating or drugs or drink, doesn't matter what it is. Hedonists are slave to their wants, their needs, their desires. So when this card comes up for you, you really want to take some time and do some personal exploration. You want to ask yourself if there is something that you are in danger of getting trapped by, or if there's something that you are headed toward, or maybe it is a card that is coming up to be a little bit of tough love and to say, hey, time to start looking at this, because you don't have to live this way. You do have control, and you can move past whatever it is that's keeping you so constrained and so tied into the devil card and the energy that that it exudes. So that is death, temperance, and the devil. Next week, or next lesson, we're going to be talking about the tower, the star, and the moon. So be sure to subscribe and like and do all of those good things so you'll know when the next episode of the Moxxie Coaching podcast is coming out, and so you can continue your journey and learning the tarot cards. Be well, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic week. Take care.